Round number 2, Elizabeth, welcome. Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce, in opposition with or concerns. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Cold here. Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Elizabeth Seaver on behalf of the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce. I didn't mean to sign us up in opposition per se, but that's okay. I wrote in concerns. That's fine. And I say that because the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce has not taken a position as to whether the adult recreational use of marijuana should be legalized or not. But what you'll see in my written remarks is testimony as to what we would like to see happen should that come to pass relative to employers' rights to make sure that they can manage their workforce appropriately. My comments are as to the article as originally introduced and do not incorporate the comment or the changes that you see in the sub-A. A lot of our concerns look to be largely addressed by the sub-A, so I don't want to belabor those points. But and I get that the committee has heard a lot of testimony on this, seems that they're head into these issues relative to making sure that there's abilities to test employees for impairment and be able to act on that, because our current drug testing statute really acts as a de facto ban on testing in the workplace. So it looks like that will be addressed, which we greatly appreciate DBR working with the business community on these issues. The other issue that we had originally was the ability to deal with off-duty use, which you heard from Steve Brown from the ACLU. If we would have gone forward with the language as originally introduced, it would just been us and one other state that had a provision saying that employers cannot deal with off-duty use, and it would basically create a protected class for marijuana users relative to other intoxicating substances, but that has also been addressed, so we thank DBR for that. And our other issue is making sure that employers had the ability to create a drug policy that worked for their industry. Obviously, lots of industries are very different. Manufacturing obviously has particular needs that you wouldn't see necessarily in a law firm, right? So we wanted to make sure that employers had the ability to make and update their drug use policy as they went to address those concerns, and I believe that has largely been addressed as well. But of course, like everyone else that I think has come before your committee, obviously I'll have to review that sub-A and get back to you. I'd be happy to take any questions.
No, thank you for your testimony, and as you just mentioned, when you review the rather extensive sub-A, please share, post-hearing any comments you have about that with the committee. Your testimony is always important to us, so thank you.
I'll be glad to do so.
Any questions or comments for Elizabeth? Senator Aptakis.
A couple good points, especially where how do you deal with a lot of businesses to accept this new law and folks that are going to be using the product that for business and workplace protections. Now, we'll let the go from State of Jones and Ames having mandatory drug testing policy. But then again, in Rhode Island, I think those drug testing laws statutes may be a little bit different. So you're looking at something maybe to help business. We go to a mandatory testing on some specific use of any equipment, tools, manufacturing. What you just said, other than a law office, something where it's just basic, dangerous, I should say. But are you saying that we should be maybe looking at mandatory drug testing, or no?
No, so I think, well, I'm going to take a couple steps back. The examples that you use, they have drug testing because they have federal contracts, and marijuana is a scheduled substance under federal law. It's still going to be legal under federal law, and that's where you have a lot of this kind of weirdness, this conflict of law that we don't expect to be resolved anytime soon, because that would require federal action. So those are the two examples you use. Those are entities that have federal contracts, so they're going to have to maintain a drug-free workforce because that's required under federal law as a part of that contract. But again, not having gone through the sub-A in great detail.
Pretty lengthy.
Yeah, right, So the current drug testing statute basically says that if you test someone and if you test an employee and it comes back positive, you can't actually fire them based on that positive test result. So as a result, any attorney worth their salt would tell an employer, just don't test, fire, because we're an employee will state.
Right.
So as a result, nobody's testing. And because marijuana, how you measure impairments is obviously different than what we're all used to relative to alcohol, employers are concerned and they want the ability to test and then act upon that result. So I'm not saying that we need an absolute mandatory drug testing policy for anyone. There's plenty of employers that probably would never want to test anyway. I'm just saying that for employers that want to have the option to test their employee and then act on a positive test result, and again, I'm literally just talking about recreational. I'm not talking about medical. I know there's case law out there on that point.
And at the same time, we also got to protect what Lynette said, the hospitality industry also. You've got drinking, you've got training, but then now you're going to be combining both. If there's something that both of you might be suggesting to us, that something that we can maybe tweak or amend the current statutes to adopt this new introduction of this marijuana, cannabis into the society, and that's my other fear. You're going to have a combination of both, and how do you protect businesses? That's the key point that I want to make. We want to make sure that the owners of restaurants, bars, whatever, not just the hospitality industry, but other venues to be protected. I mean, this is something serious.
Yeah, and to your point on banks, I know a lot of like federally regulated banks aren't even taking money from marijuana, but yeah, so we have been working closely. Obviously, I can't speak for Lynette and all her clients, but I recognize that this is the case. All the business community has been working very closely with DBR through this process over the last several months, to be totally candid, on this language to make sure that it does strike the appropriate balance and it does provide protections for employers as we move through this legalization process.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.